Hey, welcome to the Huntsville Hustle podcast, where we will highlight the local small business owners that are the backbone of the Rocket City here. And our guest today is Tanya Hendrix. She's an attorney and founder of Huntsville Estate Planning LLC. And I'm excited to have her on because she does the important work that we don't like to talk about, but we all need it. So I'm glad she's on the show. Tanya, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I kind of looked at your resume a little bit, and you have a wide variety of experience across the legal system. Can you kind of share some of the highlights from over the years?
Yeah, so I became an attorney to help abused women and children. That's how I started out. That's why I went to law school. And my idea as an 18-year-old, when I knew that's what I wanted to do, I was an 18, and that my idea was to be a prosecutor. And so that's what I did. I went to law school, came out, was a prosecutor for a few years. My expertise or specialty was prosecuting domestic violence, child abuse, both sexual and physical. And so I did that for a number of years. Switched over to private practice and did divorces, custody work, some criminal defense. And then that was down in Baldwin County. So I'm originally from South Alabama. And so back in 2013, so when I had my law practice in Foley too, at that time, Foley was still relatively small. It's not like it is when you drive through now, but back then it was still relatively small. So we, as attorneys, did a little bit of everything. So I did have various experiences across many types of legal practice. But in 2013, I shut down my law practice and moved to Birmingham to work for a safe house for sex trafficking victims. And so I was kind of their program coordinator, legal counsel, and everything else. It was still fairly new, and they didn't have a lot in place as far as structure. And so me and my three dogs moved into the house with the ladies and lived there for 6 months. Because it was fairly new, they couldn't pay me. And so I had to start practicing law again. At that time, I started doing debt collection litigation, which was horrible. But it paid it paid the bills, you got to do what you got to do. And then in 2017, although that was I'm sorry, I started practicing law doing that. Then in 16, I met my now husband, and we loved the area, Gunnersville, Huntsville. And so we talked about when we got married, eventually retiring here. And so it's like, why wait? And so I got a job at Pier in Huntsville in 2017 to work for a divorce law firm. And so I did the high conflict divorces, the complicated divorces, the nasty ones for a number of years. And then in 2021, had the opportunity to go to work for an estate planning law firm full time. And so I did that because I had just gone through my uncle at 56 dying without a will, without a spouse or children, and my 87-year-old grandmother became the personal representative of his estate, and that took its toll on her. And so I wanted to help other families not have to go through that experience, and so I jumped to estate planning full time. And then in August of 2023, I opened Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer so that I could provide additional services that I felt clients deserved and needed, kind of a holistic approach to estate planning.
Wow, that's a little bit of everything. Like I said, man, that's good. That's figure out what you don't like, what you do like. That's where you can make the biggest impact. So,
Yeah.
so now with your legal practice, what all legal services do you offer?
Well, I prepare wills, trust, powers of attorney. I also started doing trademarks a few years ago after I got a cease and desist letter about something. I was like, what is this? And so I learned about trademarks, and it's really a fascinating area of the law that I've started doing. And I learned too that it's a business asset. And so that goes right along with estate planning, business succession planning. And so I help when I do estate planning, I also talk with business owners about that succession planning. And I also help new businesses form their entities, get their legal documents together. And as I mentioned, doing trademark work. And I do the probate side as well. So when someone passes away, I can probate the estate.
That's it. So if I'm a local business owner here in Huntsville, and I'm thinking, why do I need a trademark? Is this something I need? Tell me more about trademarks.
Well, a couple of things. One, you want to be sure that you can use that name, that logo, that slogan that you want to use. Because as a business owner, you know how much time goes into coming up with your name, forming it with the Secretary of State, creating a website, doing all the marketing materials. And so that takes hours and hours of your time, but also thousands of dollars. And if you have invested that much money into something and that much of your sweat and time, you want to be sure that you're not going to get a cease and desist letter from somebody in California, which is what happened to me, not with my business name, but I was doing an event with some people, and we named it something that someone in California had registered with the USPTO. I got the cease and desist letter the day of the event. And so even as an attorney, I'm like, crap, let me quickly change everything. And so if that was, if we had put money and time into this event, like business owners do with their businesses, and I had gotten the cease and desist letter, I would then have to completely rebrand. So everything I'd already invested in, I'd have to redo. So all that time, all that money now has to be redone. And so you want to be sure that you can use that name you want to use, that you can use that slogan or logo. So that's the number one reason. Number two reason is you want to be able to enforce it. So if you are able to use it and you register it with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, it is a federally enforceable registration that if someone else is trying to use it, you can go, no, 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 you can't use that. That's mine. Because somebody else may damage your reputation if you don't do that. I have a client right now who has a certain type of business here in Alabama, and someone in California, in South Carolina, has the same type of business with the same name. That person started using or started making some racist comments. Well, keyboard warriors across the country thought it was my client, and so they started attacking him. So in a situation like that, he could tell that South Carolina business, whoa, whoa, stop it, because you're damaging my brand. You're damaging my reputation. And so you want to do that. But it's also, if you had that registration, it is a business asset. And so if your business builds to the point that you want to sell it, that's something that is an asset of the business that will likely, not every time, but likely increase the value of your business, because whoever's buying it's going to want to be sure they can use that name and that brand that you've already built up so much goodwill with. So there's a lot of reasons to do that. But number one is to make sure you can actually use it before you invest your time and money in that name.
There you go. If you want to hear a horror story about that, go back and listen to our episode with Michael Cox. He's the owner of Pets Pack. His original business name was Pets Carlton, and he got a cease and desist from the Ritz Carlton.
I listened to that episode. Yes. That's a real life example and perfect example of what can happen if you don't invest the time initially to make sure you can use something.
He had everything, website, handouts, swag, all this stuff, thousands of dollars down the drain, effort, building up brand, everything. So yeah, get you a trademark or just ask about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ask Tanya. She can help you out if you got questions. So when you look at estate planning, I think people have heard of it. What's kind of some misconceptions though that people come into your office with?
Probably the biggest misconception is that they don't need it. And some people think they don't need it because they're too young or they don't have enough money. They don't have a lot of money. They're not at the retirement age. They're not multimillionaires. The truth is, everyone needs estate planning. So estate planning is not just preparing for your death, but it's preparing for now. We hear every day about someone being in a car accident. We hear every day about some freak accident, something happening. If you are in a freak accident, something happens to you and you're stuck in the hospital for weeks at a time, who pays your bills? Who makes sure that you get paid from your employer? Huntsville Utilities, the people may be sympathetic, but they still want their money. And so who's going to make those payments for you? Who's going to take care of that business for you? If you do not have a power of attorney in place, that may not be anybody there may not be anybody who can do that. And if you're not in a position where you can sign one at the time, then you're going to have a world of problems when you get out of the hospital. And so it doesn't matter if you've got $1,000 in the bank or $100 million in the bank. You need to have a power of attorney. You need to have a will. A lot of people don't believe they even need a will because I don't have a house. I just got some money in the bank account. Well, if you die with money in a bank account in your name only, someone has to be able to get access to that. And if it's in your name only, even your spouse can't get access to that. And so there needs to be a will that says this person gets my money, just even if you've got $2,000 in there. I've actually had someone had to pay me $1,500 to get $2,000 out of an account. And so don't do that to your family. Don't put them through that stress and all that hassle and money. But yeah, that is the biggest misconception is I don't need one, I don't have money, or I'm too young. A lot of people think they don't need to do an estate plan until they're getting close to retirement age. We never know when our last day on earth is going to be. We never know when we're going to take our last breath, or we never know when a freak accident is going to happen.
Absolutely.
So get things done now. It's either, one day or day one. And if you to keep saying one day, I'll get to it one day, that one day may never happen. And your last day may be before that one day.
Yeah, you got to put that one day on the calendar. Otherwise, it never comes, right?
Exactly.
You see that over and over. So if a lot of business owners listen to this podcast right now, they don't have a succession plan. What do you recommend? When do you get into that? Is that early in the business? Is that later? When do you kind of get, hey, we need to look at this succession plan?
You should get the succession plan in place as soon as you form your business entity. Most people, or what should happen is when you form your business entity, you have that built into your articles of organization or your operating agreement for an LLC. So that should be there already. You should have, particularly if you've got partners, you should have a buy-sell agreement in place, because it's kind of like a marriage. You want to have a prenup in place, because if things go bad, that's the wrong time to try to, divide assets. Same with a business. You want to get some plans in place when everything is great and wonderful with your business partner, not when things are falling apart. Or, if you do have a business partner and you pass away, does your business partner really want to deal with your spouse or the person representative of your estate who knows nothing about your business? So really, the business succession planning should happen on day one. That should be part of your planning to begin with. If you're already past day one and you're 2 or 3 years in, you're like, I don't have a plan in place, you need to talk to a lawyer. If you have a business partner, y'all need to sit down and figure out what's our plan. If one of us dies or becomes incapacitated, does the other person purchase those interests or purchase the partnership? Or does the spouse or agent for the power of attorney, are they the ones that step in? So you need to get a plan in place sooner rather than later. If it's just you, if it's your solo LLC, then get to a lawyer's office, get your business succession plan in place along with your estate planning documents. A lot of times as estate planning lawyers, we will build into, whether it's a power of attorney or will or trust, what happens to the business, like who will step in and make sure things continue to run, or if they're going to get dissolved, who's going to wrap up the business, who's going to keep paying. If you have employees, who's going to keep paying your employees? So you need to get a plan in place to make sure everything is taken care of, and that you're being a good steward of your resources, of your business, of your talent, and also taking care of the people who work for you.
There you go. If you're like me, you don't have one, do you? You don't have one, do you? So you need to get one. So it's kind of related. This may be something else. I want to kind of think about, when you're first starting, or what's something every small business owner should take legally, steps that their first year beyond the succession plan that most overlook in their first year.
Beyond the succession plan, trademarks. You do want to be sure that you can legally use the name that you're using before you invest thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours. Beside those two things I've already kind of talked about today, you would probably be surprised, and maybe not because you've talked to a lot of business owners, but the number of business owners who do not have an accountant. I can't tell you the number of people I've met with who don't have an accountant. And you really, before you decide to form an LLC or corporation, talk to an accountant about the best structure for you. I can protect you on the legal side and I can form those documents, but the accountant is the person you really talk to figure out, what do I do with my taxes? How do I structure this? And so that would probably, and I know that's not a legal answer, but when someone comes to me for a consult about starting a business, within the first 10 minutes, I'm asking, have you talked to an accountant? Because I want to know what an accountant says about your tax structure.
Rewind that part, by the way. You need that. But if you're starting your business, accountant should be the first person you hire.
Yes.
Man, I didn't my first year, and just let me tell you, it cost me a lot of money and heartache and pain. Anybody that's ever done it without the accountant, and then when they have this night and day, that's the first thing you should do. That's great advice right there. So write that one down, put it in your journal, whatever you need. That's great advice right there. So I kind of want to give people a concrete example. If you could provide kind of a small business you worked with in the past that they avoided disaster because they did plan it.
I will use actually a recent example for trademark that someone came to me, hired me to do the trademark work. And when I do a trademark application, I don't just apply for the trademark. I do a comprehensive search to make sure there's no one else in the United States who's using that same thing or something similar. And when I do that search, I then render an opinion. I write a letter that says it's either high risk, low risk, or medium risk. In this particular one, it was a high risk. And so it was actually the first one that I had that really was a high risk, that like red flags everywhere. And thankfully, the client eventually said, "You're right, I'm not going to go forward with this." I mean, they possibly could, and they possibly could win at a battle with with the federal government over that particular the other trademarks that have been registered. But to me, he avoided that disaster and those thousands and thousands of dollars in attorney's fees because he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to pass. I'm not going to go forward and register that one."
I am not messing with the federal government at all costs. I don't want to. I don't want to take that hanging over my head at all times. I don't want that extra stress. Business owners stressful enough. You don't want that. Take that
Yeah,
away.
and other business owners. I mean, those trademarks are owned by other people who have been using them, and they're probably going to put their money behind protecting that. Just like in your podcast earlier, you talked about the the pup was pup Carlton. I don't want to get him in trouble.
Yeah, the Pets Girl, the Pets Pack. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, you don't want to get him in trouble. But yeah, I mean, you would have those that money coming after you, trying to stop you, and so I'm often recommending to clients, whether it's in estate planning or business, let's find a way to do things that's not going to cost you more time and money. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I mean, I could have certainly said to that client, "Yeah, let's just go forward with it," and then down the road you're going to be paying me thousands of dollars more to try to fight for it. But the right thing is to say, "No, it's not good. You shouldn't do it," and move on.
That's smart. You don't need any extra stress. That's a smart way to do it. So, I mean, you're a lawyer, but you're also a small business owner yourself. How do you kind of balance being a lawyer and also a small business owner?
Very little sleep.
Yeah, that sounds
So
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, it's just I have to do a lot of planning. I have to be very intentional about my time. And so I have a planner that I use. I constantly refer to it. I block time. So I have to block my time so that I know where I'm going to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have block time for when I meet with clients. I have block time for when I do networking things. And I have block time for when I work on the business. And unfortunately, working on the business is not the priority it should be because my clients are my priority. And so I want to make sure that their work is getting done because as a business owner, I have to be sure that clients are being taken care of, number one, but then I got to keep the lights on. I've got an assistant. I got to make sure she's getting her paycheck. And so I have all those responsibilities, which requires marketing, networking, and all those things. So I have to be very careful with my time and very intentional with my time. And that really comes down to block timing and making sure that I stick to that block time.
That's it. If you don't block it off, somebody will take that time from you. It
Yeah.
happens all the time. You've seen it too as a small business owner. Everyone's seen it. So
Yeah.
you mentioned networking a couple times. How has networking shaped your business?
It has been incredible. I've met so many wonderful people through networking, whether it's through BNI. There's another group called Tennessee Valley Business Network. I'm a member of South Huntsville Maine Business Association and the Chamber. Getting out and meeting other business owners, number one, you have a connection. And so you can build those connections. You have referral partners, but also you have people that you can vent to at times. You can call and say, "I've got this issue. Have you dealt with this before? How did you deal with it? Do you have any suggestions?" So it has just been incredible from all perspectives. But really, having that referral network as a small business owner is invaluable because I can spend money on advertising and people come in the door and they may or may not convert. But those who come by referral generally convert to clients. Most of them will convert to clients. And so that referral network is extremely important. And you only get that from getting out and networking, meeting people.
Yeah, I mean, work's right in the title. It's not just just show it up. It's work. It's work that you got to do, but it's important work. And if you do it right, the right way, like you do, man, it can bring you so much more business.
Yeah.
A lot of us, introverts by nature don't want to get out there and do it, but it's vital. You got to do it. I'm afraid you
Yeah.
got to do it. If you're
Yeah,
hearing this right now,
I am an introvert. I don't like going out, and it's hard for me to walk into a place and say, "Hey, I'm Tanya Hendrix." It's that's difficult for me to do, but you have to set intention to do it. You have to be very intentional about it. And I do affirmations. I hype myself up. I listen to hype music on the way to events just to get myself in a frame of mind that I can walk in, be confident, be outgoing, be engaging, but then also follow up. And it's not just walking in, shaking somebody's hand and giving them a business card. It's following up with them and saying, "Hey, we met at this event. I'd love to have coffee with you. I'd love to just chat with you." Because people like to do business with those they know, like, and trust. So I can't expect to walk into an event and say, "Here's my business card," and then that person wants any referrals to me. They have to get to know me. They have to know that they can trust me with their referrals. And so it's a long process, but it's the most important one when you're a small business owner.
that's it. Go out and network. You got to do it. Yeah, put on your music. Get you a playlist. Tanya probably share her playlist if you really want it. So she gets you
Yeah.
hyped up on the way to the networking event. So business owners, they're like anybody else. They kind of want a quick win when they're getting involved with something. Could you share how a business owner kind of get a quick win if they're doing some legal planning right now? Some give them some kind of easy results.
I would say probably the quickest way to do something that's going to help your business, help your family, those that you love, is to do a list of your assets. Do a list, especially if you're a solo owner. There's probably no one who knows the business like you do. They don't know where your checking account is. They don't know where your savings account is or money market. They don't know the information and the access information to changing your website information or your social media or your emails. So the quickest thing you can do and this is, I call it estate planning without a lawyer, is to go in, do a spreadsheet. If you're an engineer listening, I know you love spreadsheets, but do a spreadsheet and list all of the things that you do in a day, all the different accounts you have to access in your business. Write down those websites, write down those usernames and passwords, all your contact information, like who's your accountant, where your last taxes. I mean, all these things that if you were to stop and think, if I were to pass away or I was in a car accident, what happens? Who needs to be there to pick up the pieces and make sure my employees get paid? Does that person, does your spouse, does your best friend, does your mom or your brother, do they know who your accountant is? Do they know who you bank with? Those are things it's not going to necessarily be quick. It's going to take you a little while to write these things down. But I think it's probably the first step you can do on your own. Doesn't involve a lawyer, doesn't involve anybody else. You don't have to pay anybody to do it. It's just you writing, journaling, listing all these things, and then stick it in a safe place where there's safe at home, safe at your office, a safe deposit box. And whoever your loved one is, whoever that person is that you would trust with stepping in and taking care of your business, make sure they know where that's located and how to access it. And so you get that done immediately. It's going to relieve some of your stress. You're going to realize, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And then get to a lawyer and get things put in place.
Yeah, we can all do that. You should. If you're the solo, but you should know that stuff, right? And then sometimes you're like, hey, I don't know that, and I should, and I'm the business owner. So that's a great start right there. We can all do that. And then, like I said, you don't have to go to Tanya yet, but you're eventually going to get there, right? So start with
Yes.
on your own and help her, and she can help you later on. So I know. So maybe they are ready to take a next step, and they've heard these terms. They've heard of a will. They've heard of a trust. How would each apply to a small business owner?
The will, there are a lot of ways to prepare your estate plan. There are a lot of things that can be done. If you have a will, at a very minimum, have a will that is going to designate who gets what as part of your estate. Upon your death, the will distributes your assets. The will can also specifically designate who gets your business assets. This goes back to, are you a solo business owner? Do you have a partner? So what happens to those assets? Certain business assets are treated as personal property, so they can be distributed within the will. If you do a trust, the trust can you can put an LLC into a trust. And so the trustee can seamlessly manage things after you pass away. So those are some ways that you can do your business succession planning with a will, with a trust. So those assets will be taken care of. The power of attorney, and also with the will. So the will or the trust. So the will, you have a personal representative, and the trust, you have a trustee. You can designate those people to be the ones to hire a professional, hire an accountant, hire an attorney, or whatever is needed to dissolve the business, make sure employees are paid out, make sure contracts are fulfilled, make sure everybody's taken care of. And then in the power of attorney, you can do the same thing. So you have an agent in your power of attorney that you can designate that agent to be the one to hire the professionals to wrap up your business. Or, if you have somebody already that maybe it's an employee that works for you who you trust to wrap things up, you can designate that person as the agent for that specific purpose. So those all work together. And if you make sure you've got your will or your trust and your power of attorney in place, there will be some hiccups and bumps along the road if something happens to you, but at least there's a plan and a path forward. Whereas if you die or you become incapacitated without those plans in place, it's chaos. You're going to have a spouse or family members who are stressed and worried unnecessarily. And so don't do that to your family. When I do speaking engagements and we talk about estate planning, one of the last things I ask them is, do you hate your family? Most people don't. But when you don't do your documents and you don't have those plans in place, that's kind of what's conveyed, because you're not taking care of them. You're not taking care of your family. You're not taking care of, as a business owner, you're not taking care of your employees and taking care of your business. And so as a business owner, you are a steward, and you need to be a good steward of your business. And if you don't have a plan in place, you're not being a good steward.
Man, I think you just gave me the episode title for this right here. Do you hate your family? That'd be a great episode title, right? I think a lot of people, they're kind of intimidated about all this stuff before, especially dealing with legal plan, all these things. How do you kind of lessen that intimidation for people that come to see you?
A lot of people are intimidated by lawyers. They are afraid to talk to lawyers. And I've had people tell me they did their own estate planning documents because they were afraid of a lawyer. One of the things I do is, even before someone comes to my office, if they go to my website, I have my picture is not with me standing there, arms crossed and a sour look on my face. I'm very relaxed. So I'm presenting to you just immediately from the website that I'm not intimidating. I'm not going to bite your head off. I'm not going to make you feel stupid. But also you can watch videos. I've got some videos on my website. I've got a YouTube channel with, 60, 70, 80 videos on it. So people can immediately start getting to know me a little bit before they even walk in. But when they walk in my office, we're sitting at a table. We're not generally not sitting at my desk. We're sitting at a table. We're talking. I share a little bit of my story so that they get to know me a little bit and the reason why I do estate planning. And then let them talk about them for the rest of the time. And so that's how, and there's also, when they walk in, there's a welcome sign. There says, welcome, Joe Martin. And so that immediately puts people a little bit at ease. I'm a good Southern girl. Can I get you coffee? Can I get you water? Can I get you Diet Coke? And so I do everything I can just from a personable perspective to try to put people at ease. I don't wear a suit. I dress nicely, but I don't wear a suit, so I'm not all uptight. I don't want people to think I'm all uptight. It is a formal thing that they're doing, but it doesn't have to be uptight. It doesn't have to be that type of experience for them.
There you go. And she's clearly a nice, personable person. She's not going to make you feel bad just because you haven't done any of this stuff for her. Because I think some people are like, I should be further along in this stuff. I should know this. No, you don't. That's Tanya's job. That's what she does for you. So I think a lot of us do expect we have to have all this knowledge. But why would you hire someone? Like I do fitness training for a living. People are like, well, I got to get in shape before I come to your classes. Like, what? That's what I do. You just come. Yeah, just come. Let the professionals help you out. So
exactly.
Yeah,
yes.
Don't be intimidated. Come in and nothing else. You'll get you a nice soft drink or a tea or something like that. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. So, are you mentally prepared for the rapid fire section right here?
Sure. Let's go.
I think you're ready. All right. So the coffee shop that you frequent the most in Huntsville?
Rooster's Crow.
Oh man, that's my answer too. That's
love Rooster's Crow.
They do a great job. So first thing you do when you start your work day?
When you're starting the work day or starting the day total?
Let's start the day. Let's go with the day first.
Okay. So the first thing I do is I read my Bible and do a devotional and prayer time.
There you go. How about when you get to work? What happens first?
I look at my planner and I see what my day holds, what my priorities are, because my planner has a list of the top 3 priorities for the day. And so that's what I look at and see what my schedule is like.
Hey, I'm a big 3 person too. I'm a big 3. All the cool kids are doing it. So what's one legal document every adult should have by the time they turn 30?
Power of attorney.
There you go. One word to describe your approach to working with clients.
I'd say compassionate.
I think that's pretty important in what you do for sure. So what's the most common kind of mistake you see in these do-it-yourself legal documents?
Gosh, that one, I will have to say not waiving there are certain provisions and certain things that's required by law, but you can waive it in your will. And if you waive it, you're saving family hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars if you do it, and also extra time. And so people that do it themselves don't know they can waive those provisions, and they are costing their families literally thousands of dollars more than it should.
Yeah, don't do it yourself. There are certain things even if you stay at a Holiday Inn Express, don't do it.
Yeah, don't do that.
What's a local restaurant you would take an out-of-town client to?
If breakfast or lunch, it's going to be Good Company Cafe.
Great folks over there.
Yes.
Great folks. You haven't checked them out, you got to do at least start with their social media. They do a great job on social media.
They
That's
do.
So
But their food is phenomenal.
yeah,
Outstanding
across
food.
the board. Great coffee too. So
yeah.
What's a business book you think every entrepreneur should read?
That one is a little more difficult because there's so many great ones. And I think it depends on where you're at in your business as to what I'd recommend. Right now, what I'm reading is all the Alex Hormozy books, the $1 Million Offers. His latest one is $100 Million Money Model. But that's what I'm just reading right now. I've got Donald Miller, Business Made Simple, all of that. I mean, so I would certainly recommend those. I'm looking. How to Grow a Small Business by Donald Miller. There's just so many. I think, again, it depends on the stage you're at in your business. But right now, I'm finding that anything Alex Hormozy is doing, I'm just eating up because he's just so very insightful and very practical in his advice.
Practical. He takes a different approach too. I like how he goes about things. So this is a simpler answer. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
There you go. That's always the answer, by the way. If you're listening, that's always the answer. So, what's your favorite law-related TV show or movie?
I don't watch them.
Good answer. I don't like watching personal training and stuff in movies either. They're always an idiot. The personal trainer is always an idiot that hits on your wife. So I can't watch them. All right, you did great on the rapid fire. So I want to kind of got just a few more things you want to rest. I want to kind of touch back on the important work you're doing. So you kind of share more about what you do with the sex and labor trafficking victims now?
Well, right now I'm just I'm a published author, and now I have my podcast. I talk about some of those things just to kind of raise awareness. In my past life, what I did, my specialty was reaching out to the victims and offering them help. So whether it was, I've been on several teams where we were literally walking the streets looking for victims and reaching out to them, like physically talking to them and offering them help. And then I would bring them to a safe house. Like I've been to the bad locations and picked them up and gotten them to a safe house. So I have done all those things where it was very direct on the front lines of working with victims on the streets, but also online. There are a lot of sex trafficking happens online, and you can find the victims online. And so I did a lot with that as well. I would, do the internet searches and look for the victims. But I don't, just a disclaimer, don't do this at home. I was very well trained by someone who trained law enforcement. And so it was extremely important that the training I had was the type that I did, because I was trained by someone who trained law enforcement. But don't do this at home.
Yeah, don't try this at home.
Yeah. Let the professionals reach out and help the victims, because it is very dangerous for you, but also the victim. You're putting that person at risk if you're talking to them and they're not, quote unquote, working. So you're putting their lives at risk, not just your own. So leave it to the professionals, please.
Yeah, like most things, leave it to the pros. But if someone is wanting to get involved and help out some way, where would you recommend some resources and places they could check out?
I would start with just learning what trafficking really looks like. And so you can read a book. There's one book called In Our Backyard. It's actually written by a friend of mine. And I met her as she was researching the book. But it's a great resource, easy to read book that just tells the real stories of victims and how they became victims. So that gives you the introduction to what trafficking looks like. I think people have misconception about trafficking victims are just they're smuggled across the border, they're here from other countries. We have so many domestic minor sex trafficking victims and domestic trafficking victims here that you would be shocked. I mean, out of all the victims I've worked with over the years, I think probably two were actually international. The rest were all homegrown. They were born and raised Americans, and just for whatever reason, they got into they were being trafficked, being prostituted, and so it's important that you actually know what it looks like and what trafficking is in America. And so I'd start with reading In Our Backyard. There's also a couple of groups locally here in the Huntsville area. There's the North Alabama Human Trafficking Task Force that meets, I think it's the first Tuesday of every month. They do a lot of education. That's really all they do is just kind of educating people. But we need education. If you don't want to do those things, there's also a lot of agencies who do work directly with victims that you can reach out to, maybe donate your time, donate your money. They are constantly, the organizations that have boots on the ground that's really working with the victims are constantly in need of your funds and in need of your resources. And so you can do that as well.
And it's happening everywhere, like you said.
It is.
They're not in the big cities. It's not overseas. I mean, it's right here in your own backyard. Yes, you get involved any way you can. I know people have asked me, like, how do you get involved? Could you ask her about that? So thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
And before we go, I mean, I know people have learned about all these things and they don't want to do it themselves. So how can they work with you?
They can go to my website, HuntsvilleEstatePlanningLawyers.com. It is. I named my firm what it is, HuntsvilleEstatePlanningLawyers.com. And so you can go to the website. You can also find me on Facebook at Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer. I'm on Instagram, Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer. I'm on TikTok as Attorney Tanya. I'm on LinkedIn as Tanya. So I'm on all the socials. I have a podcast, Legacy Her Way. So you can reach me however. I mean, the easiest way and quickest way is go to the website. You can actually schedule your appointment online. My phone number is on there that you can call. But again, it's Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyers.
That's it. I like when people name stuff what it is. I don't like to be confused. Take it from a name as business, Joe Martin Fitness LLC, because my name is Joe Martin. I do fitness. So I thought of that name myself, right? So there you go. So,
and no one can take that from you.
No one can take it, right? No one can take that. We learned about that earlier in the episode. So, Tanya, thank you so much for coming on here and telling us about stuff that's not necessarily always fun, but man, it's so important. So we need to have these discussions. We need more education about that. So thank you for what you're doing out there.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Sure. You're doing a great job out there. You guys are listening right now. Please share this episode. Somebody needs Tanya in their life and they don't even know it yet. So introduce them on the podcast. Go to our website, check them out on there. Please keep listening and we'll see you guys next week on the Huntsville Hustle podcast.